right, it is May 12th, 2021. It's Wednesday, so it's time for EMP review. Yeah. And it's still me. Brandy has not fired me yet as the host. I'm trying. We'll see if I can push it far enough, Brandy. And I'm joined by Chef Brandy, who just knows everything about entrepreneurship and all kinds of useless things. So if you ask her questions, you might get an answer when you don't expect it. So, Chef Brandy, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Chelsea. So it's funny. I'm going to tell a story about our origin. Well, not our origin, but just to show how long we've been together. So,
don't give me my age.
So you said you're trying to get fired. There was one time, I don't remember, we were coming back from some school, something, and your mom told me, I don't know what the situation was, but that I had the patience of Job. So it's going to be really challenging for you to do many things. From a young age, I had this patience. So I don't know what you're going to do to push that off.
Okay. So we never know how we're going to start these things, but it's always fun. Now, if you are with us live, of course, you can add whatever you'd like in whatever comment section you see, and we will get to it. But we'll continue to have fun. Before we do, Brandy, EMP, Entrepreneur Meal Plan Membership, give us the spiel.
Yeah, so Entrepreneur Meal Plan is a community for people looking for food for their minds, bodies, and businesses. So what do we do here? We help you to use plants to power your productivity and your profit. What do you mean by that, Brandy? So listen, a plant-based diet is what we use to help us to keep our community healthy in our mind and in our body. And so we provide you with meal plans, recipes, shopping lists, live cooking demonstrations each week, and the replays. In addition to that, you get a resource center that will help you to grow and sustain your business, and access to a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are also interested in staying healthy as they build their legacies. That is only $30.23 per quarter.
Yes, which I like to say is $120.92 per year, per annum.
Per annum.
Oh, watch out with the Latin. Now, our theme for this month is cool as a cucumber. Oh, yes. So today's little dish is an Asian cucumber salad.
Yes.
Is this a cold salad? Could it be warm?
It is a cold salad. I may have expressed before that I'm personally not a fan of warm cucumbers, but I think this could work warm if that's your thing.
I don't know that I've had a warm cucumber.
I've actually had some weird cucumber stir fry in some of my eating.
Don't people use them to replace noodles?
Sometimes, but usually it's that's usually in a raw dish. If it's a cooked dish, it tends to be a zucchini.
Okay, so on that hilarious note to me, Brandy, go ahead and get set up, and we look forward to the Asian cucumber salad. Brandy, we'll be back in a moment.
All right. All right, so we got good old Asian cucumber salad. So what do we think the main ingredient's gonna be? Gonna be cucumber. All right, so this right here, hot house cucumber, extremely long. I am probably only gonna use half of this because I am only making a serving for me. If you are not aware, the hot house cucumber is the cucumber that grows in a greenhouse, hence the name hot house. and you could find it all year round. It's the variety that shows up in plastic in your grocery store. So yeah, so this particular variety, I keep the skin on. The traditional one, I think it's called the English cucumber. The skin tends to be a little thicker. So if I was using an English cucumber for this recipe, I would cut the skin off. But with this one, keeping it on. Also, the Persian cucumber, which is also known as the mini cucumber, could be used in this recipe as well. As you see, this is a very simple salad. I cut the cucumber in half and then cut it in half and then lined it up and cut it into little half moons, I guess we'll call these, right? So in addition to this cucumber, I'm going to add in a red pepper. You know what? I'm going to take this as an opportunity to show how to cut a red pepper effectively, right? So the best way to get the most out of your red pepper is to cut off the top of your red pepper and to cut off the bottom of your red pepper. Then you cut inside of your red pepper, get all of that good core stuff out of there, get it all out. If you happen to be a stock bagger, this could go into the stock. It's not going to add much flavor, but it'll give you some type of dimension, another layer of something in your broth if you want to hold on to it. Otherwise, you can just compost it. Then you can just cut this in this one place, and you have like this nice little even pepper that you can cut from. Also, how we maximize the top and the bottom, you just push out this little top piece, and then you can cut up this. So what I'm actually going to do for this, because I'm going to keep my salad pretty. I'm going to go back here. So we're going to go here and chop these up. And I'm going to just do medium dices. So I'm going to cut them, my lines. You know how much I love my lines, guys, when it comes to cooking. But I want these to be not quite square, but not quite long. So kind of a longer dice, not quite a rectangle either, but a little over a square. So we're going to throw these simple peppers right inside of the salad. Then we're going to add in cilantro, one of my favorite herbs. It smells super fresh, and it adds a nice little punch to dishes. Cilantro shows up a lot in Thai food, in the Asian genre of food. And so I always try to dump it in as many things as I can. I just really love the different level of flavor that you add. And as you can see, I'm also cutting the stems, not only the leaves, because those stems pack a ton of flavor as well. With cilantro or any herb, I'm only going to put in a little to start before I taste, because you just want to make sure you have that balance. There is a such thing as too much herb, so we don't want to kill it. And then I'm going to throw in good old green onions, also known as scallions, and I'm going to cut them, as they call it, on a bias. The only reason you cut them on a bias is because, if you cut them this way, it looks like you kind of know what you're doing. So just diagonal, cut them diagonally. They just look cooler. So that's what we're doing today. Bam, 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 bam. Now I'm going to just put some of them into, and I'm going to save some like the cilantro for the top. So this is the base of the salad. Super, super simple. So what gives it its flavor? It's our good friend here, rice vinegar. And now a little tip about rice vinegar. There are two types of rice vinegars. There's something called seasoned rice vinegar, and then there's just regular rice vinegar. Now the seasoned rice vinegar has salt and sugar infused into it. So I would not recommend using that one regularly, whereas the rice wine vinegar, just plain, unseasoned, regular old rice wine vinegar, it's just vinegar. So there's no added calories, no added sugar, no added salt. So when you are purchasing your rice wine vinegar, be sure to check to see if you're going to be getting a seasoned one or an unseasoned one, depending on what your goals are. I'm going to throw in just a dash of soy sauce. It's Asian, so you want to add in that kick. Now, this salad tastes good without soy sauce too, FYI, if for some reason you don't use soy. That's just a little tip. Add in some red pepper flakes because I like it spicy. You could also do jalapeno here. If you have some of that, I would recommend dicing them small. And then good old garlic powder. And I like a lot of garlic. And also our good friend ginger is going to make an appearance because it wouldn't be a brandy salad, and it definitely wouldn't be Asian. But a little bit of ginger. Now, for people who have not seen the magic that we sometimes perform in the EMP kitchen with a spoon, I want to share with you how you can literally peel ginger with a spoon. You get the skin off. Now, this piece is weird and small, so it's just getting it in there. It's a little more difficult than it normally is, but literally just taking a spoon and we're peeling the skin off. I'm gonna break this off and see if I just have just a straight surface versus all these little fingers. It'll help us a little better. So yeah, there you go. Get this going. You guys know I love ginger. Ginger has so many properties. First off, it's nice and spicy. Second off, it has so many anti-inflammatory benefits, and it is an antibacterial agent. So bam, good old garlic. Oh, it also helps with morning sickness, and if you're on a boat and you get, I don't know what that's called, motion sickness. That's what it is, motion sickness. This right here is the microplane. Now, if you had powdered ginger, you could totally use that, or dried ginger powder. Totally. I just like fresh ginger. I had some fresh ginger. I wanted to add it to this dish. All right. Now, literally, you take this, you stir it together. You let all this stuff mix together. Sit. Now, personally, I like to make this salad like early. So I make it early in the day, and then I let it sit so things can kind of come together a little bit. But it tastes fine just straight too without waiting. I'm going to taste it now just to see if I need some more herbs now. It's good. I personally don't need anything else in here. So what I'm going to do is finish it off and then meet you guys back shortly for questions.
Right. So, Brandy, here we go with some questions. And if you have questions, of course, type them in for us. Christine is here, Brandy. Hey, Christine.
Hey, Christine.
And you know what? Christine's comment was, I'm going to put it up here, this spoon.
EMP we should sell spoons, and that should be like one of our merchandise items. That's hilarious.
That was the best. Now, a question from Christine. Let's start with that. What about noodles? Can you add them to it?
You can. Yes, I like adding noodles to this salad. My favorite noodle to add to this salad is a rice noodle. It's really cool to just rice noodles are cool because you just reconstitute them with water. You don't have to cook them. So you can put them in a bowl with some hot water that you boiled in the kettle. Let them sit to the side while you're making the salad. they're kind of reconstituting, and then when you're done, you just dump them in and mix them into the cucumber mixture.
Cool. Yeah, and they're not heavy
Yeah.
noodles, so that would be good. Piggybacking off of that question, any other things you could pair the salad with?
Of course, you could pair it with rice, right? Rice is kind of an obvious one, or any grain for that matter. But my favorite way to, and I mean, definitely not heavy, definitely not light, but I also like pairing it with like bread, like some type of wrap that I can like kind of break and like dip the sauce into it. We'll dip the dressing in with the bread. So that's how I like to have that salad too.
I like that. A nice crusty bread with
Yes,
that.
yes. That's it.
Oh, don't talk dirty to me, Brandy. Don't you do it. So that's good. You know what I was thinking too? You know, I love broccoli. You know that.
I do.
I could even look, I could have my cooked broccoli and have that with it. It would work really well.
Yeah,
So
and raw broccoli is a good addition to that salad too.
what kind of broccoli was that?
Raw, like if you wanted to take like
Oh,
raw
yeah.
broccoli and just mix it in, that's great too. And I've also
Yeah.
added shredded carrots to that salad as well.
Oh. Now, what about this from Christine? Seaweed chips. What about that? Could we add that in?
Absolutely, that would be a good one, especially because it gives you that additional like kind of salt because we didn't add any salt to this recipe, and the flavor of the ocean always just kind of, at least for me, reminds me of Asian food.
Absolutely, and it's always a great addition. So okay, that's good stuff. We're working as a group here, Brandy. Now, next question for you.
Yes.
Thinking about certain Asian cuisines, what distinguishes Thai from Chinese, from Japanese?
Yes. So usually it's how they build a dish. It's they have the same ingredients, but they use the ingredients differently. Say for instance, even between say like Chinese people and Japanese, they both have a ramen, but their ramen looks totally different. So one ramen, the traditional Chinese ramen, is that ramen that we tend to see that's wavy, whereas the Japanese one tends to be straight. The Japanese flavor profile I feel like it's probably the cleanest of the, if we're talking just say when we're talking like Chinese, because Korean food is so different than Chinese food. So I'm going to try to keep it very like Chinese in comparison. So Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Thai. Those are the only ones we'll talk about right now, because Indian technically falls into this category too. But we're gonna just keep it
Southeast Asian.
Yeah, so yeah, we're gonna keep it in the ones that tend to be kind of close. I feel like Indian is very very different than you can identify those ones really different. Like you can really identify Indian from everything else. But there's subtleties that make, say, like Korean food different from Chinese food, or so. Anyway, I'm talking through this in real time, and I'm trying to find like a dish that I can go through like everything, so we can kind of answer this question thoroughly. So, say for instance, Japanese food tends to be very. When I say light, it's like really light and simple, but that doesn't mean it's not complex. Like if you taste like a Japanese broth or just Japanese food in general, when it all comes together, it's really freaking like amazing. Like if you've ever had even just something as simple as sushi, right? How it's cut, it's very like how it's cut makes a difference about how it ends up tasting. And then like the technique, even in how they make the rice. I mean, technically with sushi rice, you are fanning it to cool it. Like you don't just let it cool like by air. You do it by fan. It's very like it's like an art form. So very like simply, beautifully delivered, simple in taste. We're talking about Chinese food, and Chinese food, like the Chinese food that we get in America, is not like doesn't really do Chinese food, traditional Chinese food, any justice. I personally feel. I think that we would probably, I mean, I don't know. It's hard because I guess we're used to what it is that we have, right? So when we're talking about Chinese food I'm not talking about like Chinese joint food, like chicken. And if you talk to a Chinese person, they won't even know what like Szechuan chicken is. They don't even eat Szechuan chicken. I know that's a dish. I don't even know if anybody gets that from the menu, but but it's definitely,
And
literally.
even in China, it's so huge. Different regions have
Have
different
different food,
cuisines as
right?
well.
Yeah, but they are and I've asked lots of Asian people about Szechuan chicken, and that's the only reason I brought that one up. None of them knew what it was. None of them knew what it was. It was like they just made some name up and just threw it on the menu for Americans. Um, but anyway, all right, just to kind of condense this conversation. The through line in all Asian food, I would say, is that it's all very like artfully and thoughtfully made. And like you say, every region has ways that they put things together. You're always going to find noodles. You're always going to find rice, but they're going to be made differently. Specific to Thai food, they're all about every region of your tongue needs to be activated with a bite. So that's something that you're going to get from Thai food. Korean food tends to be a little spicier than the other foods. I want to say Japanese food tends to be more raw than the other ones. And Chinese food is, I don't know, all of them have comforting pieces, but it's something about like traditional Chinese food that for me feels feels like super homey. So that's just my experience. Yeah.
I mean, you have dumplings, you have the baozi, the steamed buns.
Yeah, scallion pancakes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if anyone's interested, there's a documentary about what you were talking about, Brandy, with Chinese food here and how it connects to traditional Chinese food. It's called The Search for General Tso.
Oh my goodness. I think I've seen The Search for General Tso. Yes. Another made up chicken, another made up dish that nobody eats. And you'll see in this documentary.
You'll see. Yeah. Is there a General Tso? Doesn't have anything to do with the dish. It's very interesting. Yeah. And Christine is reminding us exactly that it is Asian American Month. Good choice to talk about this. And AAPI, right? So we have our Pacific Islander brothers and sisters there as well. So very good. Yeah. Now, back to the dish. You talked about you don't want to add too many herbs. How do you know that you've added too many or too few?
So, you know how, and when it comes to seasoning, you can always add more, but it's really hard to take out. So I always start with a little. And for me, a little is usually what you can fit in your hand. Like what you can fit in your hand is like kind of your first
like start. The palm of your hand.
I guess everybody's palm is different.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe like the center of your palm, like whatever you could kind of fit in there. I'm just thinking like the center of your palm to start.
Now you did something interesting though, Chef. You used your hand, like you pick it up. So maybe that's it. I saw that.
Yeah, because that's
what you can grab.
Yeah, thank you. That's a better way to describe it. What you can grab. Start with that, and because that's a little easier than trying to find the palm circumference across the board. And then mixing that in, and then tasting. Tasting is a big part of cooking. So I know that there is this, I don't know, like people have this fear of making something that doesn't taste good. But remember, we have control over that. You can, like I say, you can always adjust. That's why it's best to do less, because if you mess it up, if you can take it away, it's harder in cooking than it is to add in.
Mm-hmm. Good point. And every time we watch a cooking competition, they're always tasting. They do that in restaurants. You did it making the salad. You said, what? Let me pause and taste this. Make sure. So, okay. One more question. How do you know which spices will work for a raw dish? Which ones need to be cooked? They're better that way. Is there a rule to that?
So it depends. And if we're talking about like micro and macronutrients and extracting things out of certain things, some foods have different nutrient compositions when you cook them versus when you eat them raw. Some things for me, my goal is always taste. I'm a taste person. And in a salad like this, where I'm looking for fresh, crisp brightness, I want everything raw. Could this work with something cooked? Like I'm trying to think. If you cook the peppers, it wouldn't necessarily feel the same. But if you added some, interestingly enough, like some pickled onions, which isn't like, I mean, pickling is a form of cooking. It kind of like breaks it down, so it's not like fully cooked. I think that would kind of work in this particular dish. So it depends on what you're really what it is that you're after. So if you're looking for like bright and crisp, you're probably going to get that most easily from something that's raw. If you're looking for something, even if you cook something, I like to add a raw element to it because I like texture. That's just me personally. And most people like texture, and especially when we're talking about plant-based food, that's the one thing that people say that is challenging. It's like, oh, I feel like everything's the same texture. Well, how you deal with that? Number one, you can cook things. If you want everything cooked, you cook it at different levels, or you just throw in like the raw version of something. So I'm not sure if that answered your question 100%, but
yeah,
it
would be like with the spices particularly, because certain spices are better cooked.
Oh,
some aren't,
spices. Got you. Spices, particularly garlic. Garlic is something that I would say cook. Raw garlic. There's a sweetness before it goes bitter. That's that if you like garlic, that's the magic I think in garlic happens in the cooking process. We're talking about even ginger. Like ginger is something that's both ways, but I like it cooked too. Like I think it infuses something nice into a dish when you're cooking. Your herbs like your parsleys, your cilantros, the parsleys and the cilantros, those like more leafy versus the I consider like thyme and rosemary the more stalky ones. So your basil, all of those things that feel more leafy, you want to use them, I say fresh or at the very end, like just to kind of like kind of finish the dish off. So you just let the residual heat kind of cook them down, because when they cook down, they just lose like all of that beauty and all that flavor. You kind of lose it. It gets kind of muddled. Whereas something like your thyme and your rosemary, your tarragon, those more stalky, sturdy herbs, cooking them in the dish allows them to like kind of add like extra flavor throughout the dish, and actually not as edible. So now that I'm talking through this, that may be a way for you to distinguish stalky versus leafy. The ones that are more edible, like your basil, your parsley, your cilantro, you do those fresh or at the very end. The things that you can't really eat, like that are really like needly and hard to chew, that's like your rosemary, your thyme, your tarragons. You put those in like in the dish and extract the flavor that way.
Lovely. I love it. Okay. So, of course, as always, we will end with an image of that beautiful salad. But before we do, Brandy, sign us off. Remind us about EMP.
Yeah, so thank you guys as always for joining us for Wellness Wednesday EMP review, where we help people, mainly entrepreneurs, feed their mind, bodies, and businesses. What does that mean? We help you use plants to power your profit and your productivity. At Entrepreneur Meal Plan, our memberships include meal plans, recipes, weekly live cooking demos, shopping lists, replays of the cooking demos, events, resources, and access to a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are interested in taking care of themselves as they build their legacy. So all of that is only $30.23 per quarter at Entrepreneur Meal Plan.
Excellent. And we will be back next Wednesday for our next EMP review. So that's Wednesday, May 19th at the same time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll continue our month of cool as a cucumber. So between now and then, and always, everybody, do life and business well. Thanks, Brandy.
Thanks, Johns. Later.
Bye-bye.